All right, if you just joined us, you're still on to Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our conversation for today. Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo has praised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for implementing economic reforms that rescued Nigeria from financial collapse. Speaking on June 12 at the platform Nigeria, Soludo said the country was on the brink of insolvency in 2023, risking mass job losses and unpaid salaries. He described Tinubu's reforms as bold and necessary, earning deserved support from the World Bank, IMF, and global rating agencies. Soludo urged critics to base their opinions on facts and offer credible alternatives. Beyond the economy, Soludo called for a national ethical and cultural renewal, warning against a growing mindset that celebrates wealth without work. He stressed the importance of restoring values like hard work, integrity, and patriotism. The governor also backed youth-focused initiatives like the Federal Student Loan Scheme and Anambra's One Youth, Two Skills program, saying they help build responsibility and future citizens. He urged Nigerians to unite around the progressive values to drive lasting national transformation. Now let's get talking on today's discussion. I have joining me via Zoom Dr. Mondi Onyekachi Obani, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so very much, Doctor, for being here. Now let's get talking on this particular very sensitive topic. Professor Chukwuma Soludo has said that this administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been able to meet its long-term debt obligation. I'd love you to comment on this, and let's have your submission.
Actually brought some level of hardship, and things are stabilizing a bit because prices of items the things skyrocketed. Prices of everything skyrocketed, and we're yet to recover from that particular economic trauma. So gradually things are taking shape. Because remember, when you also tampered with the foreign exchange mechanism, the naira was really sliding. At the time, it got up to 1,800 per dollar, and of course pounds was 2,000 plus, going to 2004, 2005. But for now, there has been some level of stability in the foreign exchange market, and then there are indications that prices of items are crashing, getting lower than what it used to be, but it's not yet to hold. And so when he talks, or when he said what he said as an economist, as a former central bank governor and then now a governor, he may have, listen, I cannot contest what he's saying, but what Nigerians are saying, they want to see an impact in their lives. If economic policies have been taken that is done in their favor, they want to see that reflect in their pocket. They want to see that reflect in their economic life, in their day-to-day living. Things are still very harsh, and things are not yet, good for them. And so they may still be complaining, and they have a right to complain because this government has a responsibility of making things to be all right for the citizens in terms of economy, in terms of security, in terms of all the promises they made before the election itself in 2023. So that is it. So he talks like an economist. So he knows what he's saying, that if not for certain measures that the government has taken, would have been very bad, as of today. Now the governors are receiving more revenue, than previous government. You know that governors are getting so much now. All the local governments are getting more allocation because of the fact that there is more revenue IGR coming, from the oil subsidy that was removed, so that is an improvement. But those things have to reflect in the lives of the people, especially with the state government. Most people are still saying that the state government have not been doing so much with the increased revenue they have been getting, after the oil subsidy was removed and all that. So, but as I said earlier, Soludo is an economist. I'm not going to contest that with him. He knows what he's saying. But Nigerians are saying that in all this, we want to see a reflection and want to see an impact in our lives, which I know that the government has promised that in no distant time, Nigerians will begin to feel the impact of some of those policies they have actually taken as a policy.
Very, very true. Of course, we give it to Professor Chukwuma Soludo, a professor of micro and macroeconomics. So he understands too well what he is saying. But I would love to ask you, don't you think it is contradictory? Because in that same report, he said that he had never taken any loan from the IMF or World Bank, even when he was offered the same loan for Anambra State, that he refused all the loans that IMF and World Bank made available for him. But at the same time, Doctor, you would agree with me that one of the bad decisions of the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, number one, over-reliance on borrowing and heavy dependence on FDI without domestic production boost. So don't you think that the professor is just saying this to the gallery because he is not practicing what he preached, saying that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done well while borrowing, while as the governor he has refused every form of borrowing from the IMF and the World Bank?
Yes, and so whatever Soludo has done at the state level that has made him actually not to be borrowing is what I think he should now, give a tip to the federal government. It's very, very important. If, according to him, he has not borrowed any single kobo since he came in as a governor, which to me is highly commendable if he's telling the truth, then the federal government also must be so advised, because the revenue that I have said now has increased, both for the federal allocation and that of the states and the local government. The revenue that have actually increased is also affecting, positively the purse of the federal government. You remove the oil subsidy, and so there is windfall. There is so much money now coming into the system. And so we must also learn how to manage the resources within our means, within our capacity. We should not extend, expenses and then bear and put Nigerians into long-term slavery in terms of debt that we're accruing for the future generation. And so whatever he has done so far, as a state governor, that has made him not to borrow, I think he should be able to now give that tip to the federal government so that they will not in any way enslave the future generation of Nigerians by the kind of debt they are leaving behind for us. It's very important that that is actually stressed. So it sounds a bit contrary. If he's doing well, not borrowing at the state level, and meanwhile the federal government, according to you, has borrowed more, in terms of external reliance on loan. So it is important that that advice is given, that the federal government must study what Soludo is doing at the state level, that is not borrowing. And I hear that Abia state government is also boasting that since he came in, he has also not borrowed any cover from any agency or any bank or any international donor, nations and all that, which again is also something that we should commend them. It speaks that there is increased revenue. There is increased revenue because of the oil subsidy that has been removed. There is increased revenue for this governor, so but they should now use it to impact life. And I must say this, sir, and that is with every sense of responsibility. The government must pay attention to industrialization. The government must pay attention to agriculture. If we really want to stabilize the potency of our currency, we must begin to do things that will make us to be export-driven, not import-driven. Everything we're importing.
Are you still there, Doctor? Are you still there? We're having a little bit of a shaky audio.
Naira to stabilize. They are capable to have a situation where they pay attention to industrialization of attention, which we must pay the President Bola Tinubu's federal government.
They're very, very true, Doctor. But let's concentrate our attention now to the IMF and World Bank. You would agree with me, as a Nigerian living in Nigeria, experiencing what other Nigerians are going through, you would agree with me, Doctor, that the contribution of IMF and the World Bank to Nigeria's current economic hardship under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu directly and indirectly had influenced some of the things that we're going through today. For example, it supported fuel subsidy removal without measures to cushion the effect. Another issue is advocacy for Naira devaluation, with the IMF and World Bank equally directed the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to take on Nigerians. Austerity and tax reform is one of those areas the World Bank has encouraged increased taxation like VAT hikes and digital service taxes to raise revenue, despite the fact that Nigeria is mostly an informal driven economy. Now, do you really think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is listening more to the IMF and the World Bank rather than the indices and Nigerians that he is governing?
Very important and intelligent question. You know, IMF and World Bank, we make prescriptions, and most of those prescriptions they make, you know, are prescriptions that are working in developed economies. You know, that the economies have become very stable. Those indices, you know, that make for those implementation of those policies they recommend, you know, they are very positive. They are fertile for implementation, like the issue of taxation. The European system, you know, the American system works on tax. I have been to all these countries. Any little thing you purchase from, you pay tax. Everything is heavily dependent on tax. In fact, there are countries in all this Europe that do not have any single natural resource. They don't have any oil. They don't have, but they run on taxation of the citizens. But they have come to the level where the economy has stabilized and encourages taxation, and the people are being taken care of, because there are other things that the government does in order to stabilize the economy of individuals and families, right? You know, so it works for them. The issue of oil subsidy, which they have recommended, as I said earlier, if you are now removing oil subsidy, of course, we're having more IGR, that is improved revenue for you now to operate. Now, how disciplined are we, like European countries, you know, where there is no corruption in the system? So that revenue that comes, they will use it to ensure that those who are not working are taken care of. They will want to make sure that the issue of welfare, you know, is high in priority in their list. And so they cushion the effect of those hardships that will actually naturally occur for those subsidies they have actually removed. So they plan the economy in such a manner that, look, they give you in one, they take this in and they also make sure that they give back. But if you follow the advice of IMF, follow the advice of the World Bank, but you have not done those measures that will now cushion the effect on the people, but rather you leave the people bare.
Are you still there?
Contextualize it. You must operate it under a particular environment. If you don't take care of those other things that the environment requires, they will run into a problem. So I'm saying there is no problem in listening to IMF, but you must also know the peculiarity of your own environment and apply it with regards to those peculiarities and take care of them, which is not actually what is going on presently. You are paying somebody 70,000 naira and he's buying a bag of rice at 100 and something, or it's not 80 something, I understand. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. A bag of rice is something thousand. Your monthly salary, the minimum is 70,000. You know, the English person or the American will do something that will make that man that is earning lowest to be taken care of. So that even if the cost of things are high, there are economic measures that have been put in place to cushion the effect on the poor, on the less privileged in the society. That makes a difference. So taking the advice without environmental consideration will put us in a very tight corner. That is actually what is going. It's not as if those policies they recommend are bad, but the point is that you must environmentalize it. You must look at the environment. If you don't look at your environment and apply it, you know, if so, without looking at the environment, you run into problems and bring hardship on the people. That is actually what is playing out, my brother.
All right, that's awesome. Doctor, just before we continue, please, I would love if you can adjust your camera a little bit so that we can, you know, capture your face very well, because it seems to cut. We're not really having it.
Yes.
Yes. Aha, beautiful. Yes, awesome. It's great now. Yeah, so I would love to ask, because it's so very important that you made this this symbolic submission, the fact that the trajectory the IMF and the World Bank wants us to go is actually not bad, but it's not domestic. It doesn't apply to the system that we operate in Nigeria. So this raises the question, the very fundamental question: do we blame everything on the choices of the president? Because he is at home with us. He understands our plight. He feels our breath. Can we now say that the president has refused refused to allow for the people to speak to him so he can better lead the people in sympathical to development in Nigeria?
The president has the economic team that surrounds it. You have the central bank governor, you have the minister for finance, and then there are other economic advisors that actually look at those pieces of advice that come from those world organizations. I'm saying that they must be in a position to advise smart properly. Everything stops at the table quite right, but he relies on the advice of those his economic team. And if they tell him that, Mr. President, this advice given by the World Bank is clearly, we are good to go, it's implementable, without also putting the environment in which this advice will be implemented into consideration, it will put us into more, economic problems. So I am saying that those who advise the president must look at the environment and then what do we do in order to cushion the effect of those implementations on the people. Because if we take all the advice, the whole line and sinker, without looking at the environment, without taking some measures that can now cushion the effect, the people will suffer and they will begin to blame the president. So the economic team must look at what the people are also saying. A lot of people are reacting and saying there is some level of hardship, and now we must recognize it. And the president also acknowledged the fact that there is hardship in the country. But he also have this belief that in no distant time, that we begin to have positives. We are going to begin to have things happening positively with regard to those economic measures he has put in place that have, according to him, are temporarily inflicted on the people. Because that is temporary infliction. That is what they are saying, that it is only temporary, that all of us must bear this temporary infliction. That after some time, there will be positive that will now begin to look back and say, oh, thank God that the president took those hard. Now create some level of positive, and people will begin to say, thank God that the president was bold enough to take some of the decisions he has taken. It's our hope, it's our prayer point, that let all this hardship that we are suffering and undergoing presently turn out that it is a temporary hardship and not forever, so that we begin to see those positive.
All right, I think we have a little bit of a glitch there. It was a very interesting discussion that we were, of course, having with Dr. Obani. I was speaking to the issue of the crisis in Nigeria. Thank you so very much for being back. I understand we're having a little bit of glitch there.
I'm very sorry.
Yes.
I'm very sorry. Are you there?
Yes, I'm very here, sir. Very here. I understand the glitch that we have there.
Very sorry. No, the network.
Yes, exactly.
The network was fluctuating. I'm very sorry.
It's okay, doctor. But let's speak to the issue, because it's so very important that you talked about Nigerians believing that what we're going through is temporal and that it will come and go. But the question Nigerians, an average Nigerian would ask is, it's okay for the president to say we should understand with them. He has asked us, begged us to tighten our belts. But, Doctor, let's not forget the profligacy of those in government. Your colleague, Femi Falana, SAN, on an international television, said he made reference to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, singing things are getting better. And Femi Falana, SAN, said that things are getting better for the elites and not to average Nigerians. So the question is, how do you think Nigerians would take home the program of tightening our belts and hope that things will get better while we see the elite, those in government, living in luxury every other day?
I was not hearing you again. It was cutting, but I understand that you said that Femi Falana, senior advocate, was saying that, look, if Nigerian officials are saying that things are getting better, that it's only getting better for the elites, and not getting better for the citizens.
Exactly.
What the question
yes, very true. Yes. So the question is, how do you think Nigerians will take home that that epistle or that saying that we should bear with them and we should hope, like you have said, that the condition is temporal? Did you get my question, Doctor?
I don't know why the network keeps on getting worse, even as we progress.
Oh, progress. Very sorry.
The submission.
Very sorry, yes. Yeah, please do.
The Nigerian people want to see their government officials also do what they are saying in terms of tightening their belt.
Yeah.
They want to see the officials tighten their belt. They want to see the officials also show sympathy where it is absolutely necessary for them. And that is the truth. If you are in leadership, you must identify with the people, because you are in government because of the people. They elected you. And so all the things you do, all your thinking, all your policies must be a reflection of the choices you make for them, because they elected you to go and protect them. I agree with you that the people must see our leaders, tighten their belt also, live in such a manner that shows that they identify with the suffering of the people. It's very, very important. And then it is my also belief that what they have promised with the temporary infliction will not last long. That whatever we are undergoing now is for a temporary for the nation, because we need to actually build a nation for our children, build a nation for ourselves also, so that we can also enjoy the country just as other nations are enjoying what their forefathers have done for their nation. It's very, very important. So the people must also bear that in their mind that this affliction is temporary, and we believe our government officials are not lying. So let it be that I'm not lying that whatever they're saying that is going to be temporary is temporary. But we must also insist that those who are in government must also show that understanding that everyone needs to tighten their belt, and not only the people but also the government officials. But when all this are done, we must do it in a balanced manner. Then the people can say, yes, let's go ahead and bear it, provided it's going to be temporary. And we are seeing our leaders also bearing the brunt alongside with us. Then we show understand. Nigeria is one of the most, one of the best countries to govern in terms of compliance by the citizens. Nigerians fly along with their leaders. They show understanding, especially for those who come to work. Look at what is happening in my state, Abia State, where I come from. The one that the governor is doing, everyone is singing his praise. And some other places also, there are things happening. Now, with the National Assembly, this National Assembly have passed several laws that will impact positively on the lives of Nigerians. They have passed the student loan bill, which the president has signed into law. All the economic development commissions, for the various regions, was passed under this administration. The tax reform bill you have just mentioned, which exempts mostly the poor, if that bill is being signed and implemented and all that, we are going to make more money from the elites in order to use to run an economy, which is actually what happened in the developed economies. It is those who are well-to-do that pay more taxes, whereas those who are less privileged are actually exempted from taxation. So if you begin to implement this taxation bill, it is going to improve more revenue for the government. It's going to ensure that the poor people are exempted from taxation and hardship, and then you have more money to run the economy and all that. There are many other things that this present government has done, which we believe that in no distant time, we begin to see the positives in the lives of the people. Because if you read all the statistics, it does not affect the lives of the people. It doesn't make any sense. So we want to see the impact on the life of an average person who is a citizen of this, who has believed so much in this government promises, and that is going to be something that all of them will be very proud of at the end of the day. So the government must work towards ensuring that in no distant time, this present hardship will fizzle away, and they begin to enjoy all the positive which they have made as promising and all that. So I believe that we must work towards that direction, including us who are citizens, including those also who are in government. It's very important, and we must have one mind to work for the interests of the country, and that we pray that the country itself succeed, because we don't have any other country other than Nigeria. And so we pray that we have good governance from our leadership. We also pray for good followership from the people in order to obey the laws and work towards achieving that common goal of having a country we are very proud of. That is my belief.
And that is so very fantastic, Doctor. But just before I let you go, my final question is this. We can't say we have a great country, a country that we desire, that would be one place everyone is proud of, without respect for the rule of law. You will agree with me that among the 36 states in Nigeria, one sub-sovereign is under military rule as we speak today. emergency rule that is. And you are a major stakeholder with the NBA. The NBA had always taken that course to say this is not good, this is not right, this must not be applied in democracy that we have today. I would love to ask you, what is your take on the continuous emergency rule in Rivers State and Nigeria? And do you think this is in tandem with the just celebrated June 12th Democracy Day?
That is a very brilliant question. The unfortunate thing that led to the installation of military governance, interim or whatever they call it, a government of necessity, having the military in a democratic setup, was clearly unfortunate. And I gave my advice earlier on television on several interviews that look, whatever we can achieve in terms of having peace in that particular state, let's go ahead and achieve it. But I'm very happy that after the position, that there is room now for negotiation. They are now reaching out. Fubara is reaching out to his former boss, and then he's reaching out to the federal government for them to actually make peace. The NBA condemned that military imposition governance, in the state, and they want democratic government because it's respecting the will of the people that have elected somebody. That person must be allowed to complete his tenure in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And then the government itself has made promise that in a no distant time that particular military governance in the state will be removed, which is what we are hoping for. So I have seen moves from stakeholders, from the governor that was deposed, that was removed, and even from the former leader of that particular state, all coming around in order to see what peace they can be able to achieve, before the restoration of the civilian regime. So whatever that can be done, it shouldn't exceed the 6 months. If at all it must get to that 6 months, it should not exceed 6 months. We want the restoration of the civilian government in that particular state. We are celebrating what June 12th, portends for Nigeria, and celebrating those who died in the process, who did everything for us to enjoy this democracy. Then if we must honor them, one of the greatest honor we must give to them is to ensure that every state in Nigeria is being governed under a civilian administration where the will of the people will be respected. That is the only thing we can do, the minimum requirement for the spirit of those who fought for our democracy we're enjoying today. So I believe that in no distant time, Fubara will be brought back to power in order to complete his tenure in accordance with the provisions of the people, and also in accordance with the mandate that was given to him. It's an unfortunate thing that today we have a state that is under a military regime. It's not healthy for us, and we must do everything humanly possible in order to restore normalcy in that state. And I believe in no distant time that will be done.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Monday Onyekachi Obani, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and thank you so very much. We truly do appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure having you this morning and having me also in your program.
We truly do appreciate you, sir, once more. All right, that's just about the time we have. We'd love to say thank you for making this a date. Please do well to visit us if you may. You can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Gwebike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.